Lazy Goldmaker here. Today we're going to take a look at tailoring on the Dragonflight beta and how I'm going to approach this from a goldmaking perspective, the ways to build out knowledge. There's a couple of different builds actually, and what we can expect. So first off, we're going to look at the recipes. What are we getting? Tailoring essentials. This is just unraveling. You make thread from unraveling wilder cloth. That's how you make one of the recipes, the spool of wilder thread. Then you craft bolts, optional reagents, finishing reagents. Then there's all of the cloth armor you can craft, PvP armor, epic armor, all that jazz. And then there's, like leatherworking, there's some specialized armor with extra effects. There's the Azure Weave and the Chronocloth garments. Then you can craft profession gear, spell thread, which is enchants for your gear. There's bags, assorted embroidery. This is mostly toys and some meme items. And then there's the fiddles. I'm not sure. I don't even know what this is. But that's fine. So that's sort of what we can get here. Now, as for the profession tree, there's 4 different specializations. Like every other profession, you have one like generic tree with a base node that just gives you skill, and then there's one each for resourcefulness. This one gives you cloth collection, since that's a bonus you get as a tailoring player, and then you can get inspiration. Then there's a textiles tree, which is focused on spell thread, intermediate materials, and that sort of stuff. Draconic needlework, which focuses on the specific Azure Weave and Chronocloth recipes, and then there's garment crafting for the basic skill for armor crafting and the specific armor slots. Obviously, all of these interact specifically for the recipes for Azure Weave and Chronocloth. That's pretty much the basics. So Azure Weave, Chronocloth. This is interesting. The big thing here is these, the Azure Weave and Chronocloth bolts. As you can see here, you have a limit. Crafts available, 1 of 30, because I've maxed out the nodes here. It starts out of 1 of 10. And then when you craft it, it goes on cooldown. And as far as I can tell, this is going to reset with the server reset tomorrow morning. I'm not sure if you get all your charges back or just 1. Based on this, I'm going to guess you get just 1. You can increase the rate at which you gain these if you put points into the end nodes in Draconic Needlework. But this is the return of cooldown-based materials. They can be traded on the auction house as well. So if you can get quality 3 Chronocloth or Azure Weave cloth, that's going to be very, very valuable early on. Obviously, anyone who's played Wrath Classic will know that the Ebon Weave, Spell Weave, all that jazz is very good. Now you'll also notice that this recipe difficulty is incredibly high. So as with most other materials I've tested, the only realistic way to craft a quality 3 Azure Weave bolt is with inspiration. You cannot get your base recipe, your base skill high enough. Now if I'd had professional accessories now, I would be crafting them 15% of the time whenever my inspiration procced. And that's it. You're going to have to roll the dice for a quality 3. You're going to have to roll the dice. There's just no way to get the skill high enough. That's the case for pretty much every intermediate material of high level that I've seen so far in Dragonflight. So nothing unique there. You're going to rely on inspiration quite a bit. So then I've mapped out the knowledge breakpoints, and we're specifically looking at the armor pieces here. So obviously quality 5 basic. So if you're just looking at wanting to make vibrant head cover at quality 5, then you need at least 40 knowledge, and you're going to put that. You're going to max out the specific head cover or head armor slot first. For quality 5 with an embellishment, so you add one of these embellishments at quality 3, then you're going to need 65 knowledge. If you want to infuse it with the mythic infusion for mythic item level, that's going to be 90 knowledge to guarantee a quality 5 craft. That's the minimum if you take the absolutely optimal route. If you also want to infuse and embellish it, that's going to be 105 required knowledge. If you want a quality 5 elemental piece, these have higher base recipe difficulty, but there's also more bonuses available. But if you want to get this to quality 5, then you need 150. That's pretty much it. And lastly, if you want to push the this one with an infusion to quality 5, then that's going to be a requirement of 220 knowledge, which is more than you can get. That's the maximum you can get, 220 knowledge. That requires about 190 points. So you'll never get to absolutely maxed, which means that if you want to craft these at quality 5 with a mythic recipe difficulty, then you're going to have to roll the dice and rely on inspiration to actually get you the quality 5. Otherwise, it's going to be quality 4, so you'll probably have to recraft these. Now, as for your knowledge points, I think there's 2 potential builds to go with tailoring. And there's a strong case to be made for having 2 tailors, actually. The one route you can go is to focus on the materials, the intermediate materials, getting Chronocloth Bolt, Wildercloth Bolts, or the Vibrant Wildercloth Bolt more realistically, getting these to the highest quality possible. So for that, particularly if you want to go for the cooldown materials early on, then you're going to want to put points into Draconic Needlework. You'll start with just putting 1 point, and then you pick the side you want to go to, put 15 points here to learn the sub-specialization, and then you start maxing out here. We start putting points here, and then for the other sub-specialization, you need to max out Draconic Needlework. So then you put 30 points here after you've unlocked this, and then 15 points here, and then you unlock this, and max out the final node here as well. Once you've done that, this is quite a lot of points though. Once you've done this, you want to go into Tailoring Mastery, put 10 points in the base node, and then 30 points into this to get as much inspiration and as much inspiration bonuses as you humanly can. And then after that, you can go for these middle nodes, which are going to give you a bonus to the crafting skill of the Chronocloth. But I think it's probably better to put points into textiles instead, which is going to give you bonuses to everything. But you can max out these 2, which is going to give you some extra inspiration and a new recipe. But you're going to focus on the cloths with this build, which means that going for textiles and then weaving is going to give you the same benefit. And if you put points into textiles and weaving, 1 point here is going to give you a bonus to both recipes. So if you unlock them both, then it's more optimal to put points here in terms of maxing out your recipe skill. That being said, once you have enough skill to where once you add the bonus skill you get from inspiration and get past 425, so that when you're proccing inspiration you're getting quality 3, then there's literally no point in increasing the skill further. The other build you would want to go is for an armor crafter. Here you would pretty much have to figure out which of the armor recipes is going to be the strongest one. So is one of these pieces extremely strong? Is the allied wrist guards of time dilation with a special effect here, is that one the strongest one? If this one is, then what you want to do, you want to put points here into well, here's the bracers. I think you want to put 10 points into this one, actually just 1 point, no, 5 points to unlock the next node. Then you need to put 10 points here to unlock the sub node, and then you max out armbands, and that's the first point. And then you can put points into any of these nodes to increase your recipe skill. If you put points here, then you'll eventually get all the recipes, which means it's better to, if you're going wide, or you can put points here to just increase your skill of all our armor types, which is also a way to go. Or you can consider going straight into Draconic Needlework once you've unlocked the recipe here. Or what you definitely want to put the 10 points here though, because you get a meaty plus 10 skill bonus and the ability to use finishing reagent, which is just absolutely massive. And then you can go Draconic Needlework to max out your ability to craft the time dilation bracers. And for that you want to ignore these 2 end nodes, only impact crafting the actual intermediate materials, the bolts. So on a crafter where you're not planning to actually craft those, then you just want to put points, 30 points here, 15, or max out these 2 eventually. And then lastly, you want to max out Tailoring Mastery, which gives you some very strong extra skill bonuses, but it's not the overall focus. So that's essentially the 2 types of builds that I'd suggest going with tailoring. If you can, then doing both is probably the best. Lastly, recipes. Where do you get them? Well, there's a ton of recipes. So this is my list of recipes that I like. The Vibrant Wilder Cloth set, that's essentially it's armor pieces for every slot. You get them from Garment Crafting Knowledge. If none of the embellished effects, if none of the specialized armors are very strong, then going for the cloak is obviously extremely good. Getting the Vibrant Wilder cloak. Because that's used by every class, so obviously that's extremely good. Other than that, I'm going to assume that one or more of these embellished effects armors are going to be really good. You have all of the sources here. You get one of the recipes for the sets, the Azure Weave set and the Chronocloth set. That's a set where you need both pieces to get the set bonus. You get one piece from the Draconic Needlework knowledge specialization, and then you can get another recipe, or you get two of the recipes for maxing out that. And then there's one recipe that comes from the Valdrakken Accord, which is the main reputation to focus on. Then you have a bunch of one-off embellished armors that are tradable. You definitely want to keep your eye out on the auction house for all of the tradable recipes listed here. They're all very strong. And then you have the Valdrakken Accord, which gives you also access to Master Profession vestments. That's the Profession gear. Profession gear is going to be very good. If you want to go into enchants, then the Frozen Spell Thread, the Temporal Spell Thread, the Frozen one comes from the Cobalt Assembly reputation, and then the Temporal one is tradable. Obviously, you have to compete with the entire region, but if you're first at a specific quality, then that's going to be very, very strong. So that's also something you can consider. I don't personally like it that much compared to the cooldown-based materials and what you can craft with that, but it's a way to go. Lastly, the last relevant recipe I wanted to mention, the Azure Weave Expedition Pack, a 34-slot bag. You get it from the Dragon Scale Expedition. So those are the two reputations you want to focus on, Dragon Scale and Valdrakken Accord. That's pretty much it. Get the recipes, enjoy. It'll be very exciting to follow theory crafting on PvE classes, so we'll know which of the armor slots we want to focus on early. But there's strong cases to be made both for going for the basic armor with embellishments or for going for some of the specific effects. Chronocloth, Azure Weave. I think Azure Weave and Chronocloth is going to be very, very profitable, particularly if you can do the overall economy with crafting the cooldown-based materials as well. And I mean, cooldown-based materials, that's usually guaranteed profit. Complicating factor with the quality 3 only being available when you get inspiration and get lucky. But yeah, I really like tailoring, and I think if you want to make all the tailoring, you should focus your tailor on either crafting the Chronocloth and Azure Weave bolts and the daily cooldown materials or the cooldown materials, or you focus on crafting armor, either using the bolts or with just the basic armor, depending on what effect is strongest.